Hello students, today we are going to visit the land of the gods. Yes, the theatre of Koothambalam from Kerala. The theatre in ancient and medieval India had taken to two basic forms, the open air and the closed, with their several variations. We find these mentioned in the literature of Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and also in the treatise on the performing arts, the earliest of which now available is Natyashastra of Bharata. Among the earliest archaeological movement, the remains of an open-air theatre at Nagarjunakonda in Andhra Pradesh is the lone survivor. There is an inscription evidence of the existence of theatre in North and South India from the early medieval times in temples and palaces as well as open air. And from circa 17th century onward, there exist theatre buildings in South India in temples, complexes and palaces where dance and dramatic performances were staged. These various forms of theatre are intimately connected with temple rituals and festivals. The temple also fulfilled the people's socio-economic and cultural needs. The temple was intricately woven in the very fabric of corporate life of the people. Koothambalam. These temple theatres are to be found in Kerala only and are locally called Koothambalam, Kooth, dance or drama, Ampalam, that is the temple. They are the only ones in existence in India and some are still active in use. Kuriyatam, Kutti, together, Atam, playing, that is acting together. The tradition of staging Sanskrit plays, as it is called in Kerala, is still performed in these theatres once or twice a year during the Dasara festival. In the past, full plays were staged sometimes lasting more than 50 days. Even a single act now may take 4 to 15 days and more. This is because of the great elaboration in which the actors indulge in interpretation of the text. The text serves as a pretext for the actors to indulge in the powers of his act. It is an actor's theatre par excellence, allowing him the scope for highly sophisticated and imaginative abhinaya. Abhinaya, the four-dimensional expression. By the 9th and the 10th century, a wave of regional consciousness had swept the country as a result of the bhakti or the devotional movement. In the languages, literature, art and craft, architecture and other cultural activity, regional milieus became predominant as Sanskrit learning began to decline. It was after a period that the regional dramatic forms called Dasi by the writers of the time came into being as different from Margi or classical Sanskrit dramatic traditions based on Bharata's Natyashastra. In Kerala, the situation was somewhat different as we find that the staging of Sanskrit drama itself was given local color. Kulashekara Varman, the founder of the Second Sarka Empire, is said to be the author of two Sanskrit plays, namely Tapati Sthavana and Subhadra. To meet the requirements of this reformed Sanskrit play, production and its staging technique, the need for redesigning the theatre also must have been felt. The Koothambalam might have been evolved gradually. Two Shilpa Shastra or architectural texts, namely Shilparatna and Taitriya Samuchya of the 15th and the 16th century respectively, have a few shlokas describing the construction of Koothambalam. So the earliest extant may be of 16th century and the last in the early 20th century. The basic material used in their construction is wood, and this made them extremely vulnerable. The size of Koothambalam varies according to the size of the temple complex which itself is built. The largest is at Vadakanathan Shiva Temple at Trichur town in central Kerala. The Koothambalam is always rectangular in shape and is on the right side of the deity. The one at Trichur, viewed from a distance, is a massive structure clothed in an enormous ridged roof, steeply sloping down, covering almost the two-thirds of its superstructure. Its caves straighten out to be parallel with the ground, and this provides an extra protection to the wooden superstructure from the heavy rains of Kerala. It is further protected by the copper plate sheathing on the outer surface. At both the ridge end and in the center are the finial in the shape of kumbhas or the water pot from which sprouts out lotus buds. The theatre always stands on a granite or laterite stone, strictly according to the rules laid down in Natyashastra. On the scale of the theatre's stand, the outer small pillars and also the bracket of different shapes and sizes in different Koothambalam supporting the caves. And between these pillars are fixed the enclosing trellis or frames made up of horizontal and vertical bar. In several cases, this trellis enclosure is shunted out at an angle of 45 degrees, eliminated the brackets supporting the caves. 2 to 4 doors are created. The back door is used by the actors. The door in front of the stage is used for dramatic entries during some performances, as at Trichur Koothambalam. As you enter after climbing the steps leading to the door at the Koothambalam, you are overwhelmed by an enormous cave-like structure supported on 2 further rows of pillars. From under the ridge fan out 2 corners rafters from each end, reaching out to meet the 3 successive rows of beams, this forming the basic structure of the roof. Over the plank are fixed the copper plates, the protective covering. Between the largest row of the pillars is the platform raised by a few inches facing the stage. On this, as well as in passage between the pillars, sits the audience. The whole length from inside the theatre is divided into 2 equal parts, one for the audience and the other for the stage. Standing on its own pattern after the socle of the Koothambalam, the stage is raised some 12 inches high from the auditorium platform. The stage always faces in the direction of the deity, for it is a hollowed space on which the sacrificial offering is made in the form of a performance to the god presiding over the temple, sitting on the pedestal inside the sanctum sanctorum, and whose blessings are invoked before the play begins. The stage surface at Trichur Koothambalam is now unfortunately cemented. Several such damages are perpetrated at other places also. In this Koothambalam, in each of corner of the square stage measuring some 21 feet, stand 3 pillars totaling to 12, supporting the 2-tiered roof on the stage. The wooden pillars supporting the stage roof are lathe turned and lacquered in red. They are designed in different kumbha or water pot shape, stocked one above the other, each pillar standing on its own square base and ending in a square capital supporting the beam of the stage roof. The pot shapes are separated by their rim and further by the black lines around them. The stage is backed by a wall partly of wood and partly of brick. The door to the actor's left is used for the entry and the other for the exit as a rule. The ceiling over the stage is like a large flat-bottomed square tray turned upside down, having concave shaped sides. The semi-rounded sides are filled with carved friezes depicting scenes from the epics and the Bhagavata. Over these are the bracket carved in human and animal figures in various stances. The center of the ceiling, usually in other Koothampalams, is divided in 9 squares. But at the Trichur Koothampalam, the ceiling is carved with inverted, full-blown lotuses placed in squares. The sides of the pattern separating the squares are beautifully carved with flower designs. In the 9 squares of the ceiling, in most other Koothampalams are installed the Ashtadipa Palakas, guardian deity of the 8 directions, with Brahma, the creator of Natya Veda, occupying the central square. The dressing room. Some small Koothampalams do not have a regular dressing room. An open or closed passage serves this purpose. In these, perhaps only Prathandam resides, one of the 3 dramatic forms staged in Koothampalams, and which is a narrative form of drama acted by a single actor assuming different roles might have been staged. But in Koothampalams, where regular Kudiyattam is staged, regular dressing rooms are constructed. These are narrow, often stuffy rooms. Here, the makeup, taking hours to complete, is done with the help of indigenous pigments. The only light is a bell metal lamp with an oil-soaked wick. And it is here and in this light that the actor is transformed from a mortal to an immortal with the help of highly stylized makeup, costumes, and ornaments psychologically influencing his mind. This is why Bharata considered costume and makeup inseparable component of Abhinaya. The dressing room is almost always on the auditorium floor level, and the actor has to climb a step to enter the stage. Now, a different world, a world of gods and godly heroes. Functional quality. The Koothampalam has been very carefully designed to meet the aesthetic as well as the functional aspects. It is a pleasing structure from the inside as well as from the exterior. It is well proportioned and care has to be taken to provide ornamentation where necessary. Functionally, the audience has a clear view of the stage from its 3 sides. This is an intimate form of theatre. Kodiyattam, derived from classical Sanskrit tradition, relies heavily on subtle facial expressions, hand gestures and movement, all stylized and performed with the intricate beat of the drums called maddal. It has to be viewed from a nearness to the stage. The characters recite in solemn chants, creating a special atmosphere and is clearly audible. The stage ceiling, its flatness broken by ornamentation, and the sound absorbing quality of wood has helped create perfect acoustics. The stage roof prevents the sound from getting diffused in the great void of theatre. The black line red lacquer pillars of the stage frame the actors in the 3-dimensional space and establish a harmony with his upper black striped full-sleeved maroon garment. The gentle flow of the bell metal lamp picks up the subtle expressions on the face with its oil-bound makeup animating a soft gleam. And the glitter of the ornaments on the ears, neck, breast, shoulders, arms and the waist spotlight his every movement, enveloping everything around him in soft darkness, all creating an ambiance, lifting the audience to an enchanting performance. The stage is decorated with tender coconut shoots and fruit-laden plantain trees. A measure full of paddy and other auspicious things are placed in front of the stage on the performance day, symbolizing its ritualistic character. At present, in Kudiyattam, play in full is not staged. Only a single act from certain plays are enacted by Chakyars and the Nangyars, the hereditary actors and actresses respectively. They have been staging them from 9th century onwards, and perhaps even before. Actresses are the women of the Nambiyar community who are the traditional Milavu or the drum players of Kudiyattam. Even the enactment of a single act may last from 3 to 15 days and more because of the elaborate exposition of the text by the Chakyars in their Abhinaya. The performance begins at about 9 p.m. on Dasera, the festival of victory of gods over evil. The musicians enter the stage and take their respective positions. The two mizavu or the drum players sit on high seats behind their huge copper drums placed in wooden cages and play them by striking their hands on the narrow mouth covered tightly with leather, varying pitch, tempo, rhythm to suit the emotion. The other instrument used are an hourglass shaped small drum placed with a stick, the sounds which are varied by pressing its string in the middle. A small windpipe and the clanging cymbals make the nayanas complete the orchestra. The musicians sit near the back wall of the stage between the two doors, while the nayanas sit to their right angle on the stage floor. On the first day of the performance, the Chakyar takes a dip in the temple tank, goes to the temple to worship the god and to receive the blessings of the priest, and then to the Koothambalam. He ties a red strip of cloth to his head and his makeup begins. Once the red strip is tied, the performance must be gone through. When he is ready, the Nayanars sing a song in praise of the god, and then the Nepatyar goes to and comes out of the dressing room with a pot of sanctified water which he sprinkles on the stage to purify it, uttering some passage in Malayalam, the local language, giving the gist of the play to be enacted. Then he goes back and sits on the seat behind the mizavu and plays on it, announcing the beginning of the performance. The moment the actor appears at the door behind a small curtain held out by two stage hands, the audience rises in reverence and bows in obeisance to the god who has lived in their imagination from childhood days when their grandmothers recited to them the tales from the epic and the Puranas with their voices choked with emotion and eyes filled with tears. The actor comes in front of the musical instruments, performs his ceremonial dance, which is in tune with his character, then bows to the instrument, faces the audience, and the curtain is removed. He pulls the epithela or the stool lying there to the middle of the stage, sits on it, and gazes at the audience in a wide, slow sweep and assumes the character. And the performance begins. For the first few nights, he goes back and forth from the act being staged in a flashback technically called the Nirvahana, weaving the environment around the act. During this, the actor assumes different roles of Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana and so on in the same costume and makeup, making some variations in his loose upper piece of cloth thrown over his shoulder to show the change of the character and wearing his abhinaya to suit him or her. It is only on the last night that the act proper is staged in full when all the characters appearing in it are on stage. And this may last from 9 p.m. till the morning. In the end, the actors make their exit and the main actor returns without his headgear and performs the ritual to mark the end of the performance. And the act may sleep for some years till it is revived again. Interaction between the text and the stage and resulting convention. The ancient playwrights in any country knew their theatre, its possibilities and limitations, its equipment or lack of it, its size, large or intimate, and its form, closed or open air. And they devised certain conventions to suit them and indicated them often through the stage directions in their plays to help the audience. what the playwright left unsaid, the actors filled in during the course of the production. And thus, the cycle of conventions arising out of the text, interaction of the theatre, and the production techniques born of this was compacted. The classical Sanskrit plays were written to be staged in theatre described in detail by Bharata in his Natyashastra. Since Kudiyattam was a localized and later version of the same ancient tradition, some of its aspects were pruned or expanded to suit the local milieu. Its music, costume, makeup, gesture language now are heavily laden with local flavor and yet are based on the principles laid down by Bharata. The role of Vidushaka, gestures were greatly expanded to cater to the changed times, and he now interpreted the words spoken in Sanskrit by the hero in the local language for the benefit of the audience, who by this time was being interested in the Sanskrit learning due to the wave of regional consciousness sweeping the country. The modifications in the theatre structure was also inevitable, and the Koothambalam was designed for staging the Kudiyattam, the new reformed version of Sanskrit drama. Though Sanskrit plays were staged in full in times gone by, in Koothambalam, the same theatre with its platform stage seemed to have been used at least from the 16th century onwards. The stage is advocate as hardly more than 3 or 4 actors are present on the stage even on the last day when a full act is staged. This simplified stage naturally led to the modification in stage conventions. On Bharata's stage, there were 2 types of fixed curtains. There was a curtain on each of its 2 doors which led to such stage directions as enter with a fling of curtain. The second curtain was between the main stage hand. This curtain covered the platform in which the musicians sat, and the first part of preliminaries, that is the Purvarang, not meant to be seen by the audience, was performed behind it. There was no need for these curtains on the Koothambalam stage with a single platform, and they were discarded. But a third, flexible one, which was also used on classical stage as many a stage direction show, was adapted and used when the stage direction said, enter seated. Behind this curtain, held by 2 persons, the character entered, took his or her seat, and this curtain was removed to reveal him or her as having entered seated. This flexible curtain is also used to cover the first entry of the character and also to cover his or her ceremonial dance not to be seen by the audience. Another important convention that was modified on the Koothambalam stage related to the showing of different locales on the stage. On the classical stage, this was possible because of the convenient division of the stage into several acting areas due to pillars on it, as it was constructed in wood. And these divisions felicitated the playwrights to write plays with many scenes and allowed the action to flow not only from one scene to another without any break, but often 3 or even 4 scenes taking place simultaneously in different locales at the same time. On the Koothambalam stage, the locals and their change is simply shown by walking about the stage and also to cover distance, long, medium or short. The convention of speaking to oneself, swagat, of the classical stage is often shown by the Angik Abhinaya and not the Vachika. Koothambalam of modern times. For a closed type of intimate theatre, Koothambalam could serve as a model. It has 3 basic elements: the stage, the dressing room, and the space for the audience sitting on all the 3 sides. In modern construction, the pillars on the stage as well as the auditorium could be eliminated, and the arrangement for stage lighting and sound system could be made. A theatre of this type could eliminate expensive air conditioning because of its partial open trellised enclosures. Its acoustics will have to be taken care of depending on the construction material used. For the new drama that is emerging, taking its inspiration from the prevalent traditional popular dramatic forms, a new type of theatre will have to be designed. There is no doubt that the realistic West-oriented drama and the proscenium theatre are on their way out as the search for theatre identity intensifies. Such a theatre, inspired by Koothambalam, has already been built in Madras, Chennai. Mr. Shahryar Dehagan, Master of Architecture, who hails from Iran, is the architect, and his companion, Mr. Ludwig Pesch, a German, is a Carnatic-style flute player. Both of them, who studied in Madras, convinced the Tamil Nadu government to build such a theatre, and the government granted a small sum of rupees 1,25,000 for the construction, and the result is the theatre of future. Students, I hope you find all the interesting about Koothambalam very interesting and enriching. Hope to see you very soon. Thank you.